lot of the ticker symbol TSLY YieldMax Tesla Option Income Strategy ETF holders, including myself, were recently sort of shaken up for the fact that the TSLY ETF dividend that was payable as of October 16th did not make it to many of our brokers on time or even within a day or so. Now, after some further investigation, I was able to come up with what apparently happened and what's going on here. Now, in this video, we are going to go through what happened and why the TSLY ETF shareholders, including myself, did not receive their dividend on time, and not only if or if not this is going to happen again in the future, but what I'm personally going to do moving forward as a TSLY investor. Now make sure to stick around, especially if you do hold on to TSLY or any of these other YieldMax ETFs for that matter, and drop a like down below, and let's get right into it. So like I said for a second ago, for those of you that are not aware, or maybe for whatever reason this just did not affect you, a lot of TSLY and even NVDY, the NVIDIA YieldMax ETF holders, did not receive the October 16th dividend on time. Now, I personally have been holding on to TSLY for several months now, and on top of that, I personally hold on to TSLY not only in one brokerage, but in two brokerages. I currently hold a few hundred shares in my Fidelity brokerage, and I also hold some shares in my TD Ameritrade brokerage. Now, every single month leading up till October, I was paid out my dividend from TSLY on the exact payable date, like pretty much any other stocks or ETFs that you would imagine. And just a side note, I personally have been dividend growth investing for say around 6 or 7 years, and there's only been I think 1 or 2 other times throughout my personal entire investing journey on which I did not receive a dividend on the payable date, or if not on payable date, a day or so after. So when October 16th came around, I was of course ready to receive my 57.5 or so cents per share of TSLY that I have throughout my multiple different brokerages, and I personally did in fact receive my TSLY YieldMax Tesla Option Income Strategy ETF Dividend in my Fidelity brokerage, but for some reason on the 16th of October, I did not receive my dividend in my TD Ameritrade brokerage. Now, after checking back a few times, I wasn't really too concerned about that for a few reasons. For one, for me personally, I only have like a few hundred shares of TSLY, so it's a relatively small position for my portfolio. And I also know that sometimes brokers will send it out to the dividend a little bit later in the day, or if not, a lot of times the next morning after. So then October 17th came around and I still did not have my TSLY ETF dividend inside my TD Ameritrade portfolio. Which at this point I was starting to get a little bit more concerned. It seemed like something weird was going on, and then of course I took to Twitter as well as Reddit. Now heading over to the r/YieldMax ETFs subreddit, someone posted did not receive TSLY or NVDA YieldMax dividends. Hi everyone, I got dividends for the other ones, etc, but I did not get anything for TSLY and NVDA. TD Ameritrade says that they did not pay. And down below, reportedly, someone else said, this is what Schwab told me this morning. And this was as of a day ago from filming this video. After review, I can confirm you will receive your dividend payments from TSLY and NVDY. Schwab is a more conservative firm than TD Ameritrade and pays CD bond principal and interest on stock dividends when they receive the payment from the issuers, which can be delayed at times. By the issuing company, TD Ameritrade posted the payment to the account as a credit on the promise of payment from some issuers. We will post it to your account as soon as we receive this payment from the issuer. Once received, the dividend will post to your account. So there was a lot of weird speculation going on saying that maybe YieldMax didn't actually pay some of the brokerages, and maybe some of the brokerages were just paying out ahead of time before they even got the money from YieldMax, and there was a lot of weird thoughts going on. But then finally, after everyone was flooding the YieldMax ETF's Twitter page, they finally, on October 17th, basically a day and a half or so after the majority of us were still waiting on receiving our payable dividends, they actually issued a statement. Now, the statement said, we understand that some YieldMax ETF shareholders have experienced a delay in receiving distributions in their investment accounts. We can confirm that YieldMax had sent the distributions on time, as it has done every month. Unfortunately, an administrative issue occurred with one of the service providers that processes the distributions between YieldMax and YieldMax ETF shareholders. While this delay is unfortunate and beyond our control, it is our understanding that the issue has been resolved and distributions should be credited to shareholder accounts by the end of the day tomorrow, and this was as of October 18th. We apologize for this inconvenience. So apparently YieldMax didn't not send the money. Apparently it was just an issue from a service provider, quote unquote. Now, I'm of course not speculating saying that YieldMax is lying about anything. Of course, I would not think that they're doing that. But of course, my mind does wander, and it does seem a little bit fishy that one of the highest distribution rate ETFs across the entire market, TSLY, was one of the only ETFs at least in my experience. Again, I don't own every single ETF. I'm not saying I have, but in my experience, it's sort of weird that an ETF that has a distribution rate of over 50% is having issues with their service providers paying the shareholders on time. Now, unfortunately, what this entire situation has done to a lot of the YieldMax TSLY shareholders, including myself, it's definitely slightly tarnished the reputation and trust, because once again, for me at least, investing for around 6 or so years, I have maybe only one other time had a dividend arrive a little bit late into one of my portfolios, so it is a very rare occurrence, at least in my perspective. Once again, maybe you guys watching, and definitely comment down below, let me know if you have had, for whatever reasons, dividends come to your portfolio late, let's say. But for me personally, I have not really had it happen all that often, and once again, it just feels a little bit weird that one of the highest distribution rate ETFs in the entire market is having issues with their service providers paying the shareholders on time. So now you might be wondering, well, am I personally going to sell off my position of TSLY and my other positions of YieldMax ETFs? Now, if you guys have been watching me for a while, you know specifically that I always have said that I'm never going to allow myself to build up that large of a position when it comes to TSLY or any of these other ETFs. And honestly, this is sort of the exact reason. Whenever an investment vehicle is yielding around 50%, in my opinion, it's going to come along with some sort of risk. Now, I'm not saying that risk is necessarily going to be whether or not you're going to get paid the dividend on time, or whether that risk is going to be the fact that the TSLY ETF is going to decay in share price or the dividends are going to get cut. I don't know exactly what the risk is, but I do know one thing. For my personal risk profile, I'm much more comfortable holding on to just a relatively small position of something like this and use it as more of a gamble position for my portfolio. But that being said, I will say that it does sort of make me disappointed because I was personally trying to add a few more shares of TSLY ongoingly. Again, not by any means a large position, but I was trying to add maybe a share or two here and there. They're relatively cheap. They're like $12 or $14 per share. So I was sort of just trying to add some shares and stack up a position as sort of, once again, a side gamble position. But honestly, at this rate, if there's things like this going on, I really do not know what to think. I really don't know what to trust. There's some people saying that it's the broker's fault. There's some people saying that it's YieldMax's fault. There's some people saying that it just takes a few days. But also, as a YieldMax shareholder, I wish they would have been a little bit more clear and explained in depth what was really going on. Because after all, just imagine for a second that you owned a ton of TSLY and you were relying on your income from TSLY to pay for a bill or something. At that point, you would be in big trouble because as a shareholder, you'd be expecting to get paid on time, which is fair. So that's definitely something to think about. But now I want to hear from you guys down below when it comes to not only TSLY, but the YieldMax ETFs in general. What is your whole take on this entire situation of YieldMax apparently having a service provider issue and the dividends coming in potentially a little bit late for some of us? Comment down below your honest opinions on it. And if or if not, you're going to continue to hold on to TSLY and the other YieldMax ETFs from here. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by. And if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.